Ever since the first Neanderthal genome was sequenced roughly 15 years ago, we've gotten hints about what Neanderthals may have looked like. For example, some early studies suggested they may have had red hair and light skin tones, but there wasn't enough evidence to say conclusively. However, over the past few years, a handful of new studies have strongly hinted that Neanderthals passed down genes to modern Europeans for not only red hair and light skin, but also blue eyes and blonde hair. Indeed, all of these genes are linked in a complicated web of interactions that is very difficult to understand. Now we have reviewed the latest studies and can confirm what the BBC has not dared to say. Neanderthals were light-skinned and also blue-eyed and red and blonde hair, and Europeans inherited these traits from Neanderthals. This is a shocking revelation to some, and has not been widely disseminated. So this may be the first time you have learned of this unequivocal fact. The authors of these studies won't speak in public about these facts, and instead choose to discuss other Neanderthal-introgressed traits. But why is it that scientists discuss that Neanderthal genes affect your health and your personality? But why don't they discuss that Neanderthal genes affect your pigmentation? It's complicated. When we delve into the genetics of Neanderthals, we discover clues hidden within the ancient DNA strands. Mutations in genes like MC1R hinted at the possibility of Neanderthals with red hair and fair skin. But why would evolution favor such traits in these early humans? Was it an adaptation to the harsh, sun-deprived environments of Europe's Ice Age, where lighter skin could better synthesize vitamin D? Or was it a sign of something else, perhaps cultural, or even a result of genetic drift in smaller populations? Consider the complexity when we look at modern humans with Neanderthal DNA. Could the lighter skin tones and blue eyes in European populations be a legacy of this ancient interbreeding? This connection not only fascinates but also complicates our understanding. Were Neanderthals' pigmentation traits we see today in humans a direct inheritance, or has time and further genetic mixing changed the original palette? There's a speculative side to this story as well. What if sexual selection played a role, where lighter pigmentation or blue eyes was seen as more attractive, causing it to become more common? Or could genetic drift in isolated groups have led to unexpected variations in skin, hair, or eye color? These possibilities add layers to our understanding, suggesting that Neanderthals were not uniform but complex, much like us. Imagine standing in front of a Neanderthal, not as a figure in a museum or a sketch in a textbook, but as he or she really was. Alive, with skin, hair, and eyes that told a story of survival and adaptation. What color would that skin be? Would the hair be as dark as midnight or as fiery as the sun? Could those eyes be a piercing blue or a deep green? These questions dive into the heart of understanding Neanderthal pigmentation, a subject that blends science, history, and imagination. As science advances, each new discovery adds a brushstroke to our painting of Neanderthal pigmentation. For decades, the image of Neanderthals has been subject to manipulation, revision, and outright fraud. One of the most latest myths is regarding their pigmentation. This notion has been used to support a strict interpretation of the replacement hypothesis, which posits that modern humans are nearly 100% non-Eurasian in origin, with only small Neanderthal contributions. But is this really the case? Or is there a concerted effort by certain institutions to downplay the genetic legacy of Neanderthals in modern Europeans? Geneticist David Reich of Harvard, who led one of the studies cited in this video, has said that you could argue that non-Africans today are Neanderthals, who mixed with waves and waves of modern humans.
So, if you want to make a strong argument, you might argue that non-Africans today are Neanderthals, who just have waves and waves of modern humans from Africa mixing with it.
But why does this matter? Because science should be based on evidence, not ideology. By acknowledging the true diversity of Neanderthals and their contributions to modern humans, we gain a clearer and more accurate picture of our past. The Neanderthal legacy is not one of extinction, but of integration, adaptation, and survival. And that is a story worth telling. Indeed, the ancient blood that runs through these distant ancestors has more in common with us than we once thought possible. Genetic studies have consistently shown that Neanderthals carried alleles for light eye color, particularly blue eyes. The OCA2 gene, which is critical in melanin production in the iris, contains Neanderthal variants that have been linked to lighter pigmentation in modern Europeans. One allele, associated with blue eye color, has been found in European and Central Asian hunter-gatherers, dating back at least 30,000 years. According to one frequently cited report, blue eye color in humans may be caused by a perfectly associated founder mutation in a regulatory element located within the HERK2 gene that inhibits OCA2 expression. This mutation for light-colored eyes most likely originated in the Caucasus region around 42,000 years ago. This overlaps with a recent study that found that modern humans and Neanderthals overlapped and interbred in the region between 47,000 years ago and lasting nearly 7,000 years until the Neanderthals went extinct. Think about that, 7,000 years of interbreeding and genetic mixing. So why does the myth persist? The claim that Neanderthals could not have had blue eyes is based on outdated or selective genetic studies that ignore newer evidence from ancient DNA. Institutions that support the replacement hypothesis often emphasize findings that reinforce the idea of a homogeneous Neanderthal ancestry while downplaying studies showing early genetic variation. The spread of these genetic traits in modern humans implies that they were advantageous and selected for in northern latitudes, where lighter hair and skin provided benefits in vitamin D synthesis. The idea that Neanderthals only had dark hair is not only scientifically inaccurate, but also a politically motivated narrative designed to minimize their contributions to modern European populations. The claim that Neanderthals did not have light pigmentation is another distortion of the genetic evidence. While early Homo sapiens arriving from more tropical locales had darker skin, Neanderthals had already been adapting to European environments for over 300,000 years. The need for efficient vitamin D production in low UV environments led to the selection of lighter skin tones among Neanderthals long before modern humans arrived. It is critical to understand that skin, eye, and hair color are polygenic traits, which means they are influenced by more than one gene. The impact of Neanderthal genes must be considered in the context of natural selection, adaptation, and the blending of various genetic contributions over millennia. For example, the admixture of Neanderthal genes with those of early modern humans may have helped populations adapt to Europe's lower levels of sunlight by influencing traits like skin color. Human eye color is primarily determined by the interaction of several genes, the most important of which are OCA2 and HERK2. Neanderthals, like early modern humans, are thought to have had a wide range of eye colors, including lighter shades like blue and green. When a genetic trait becomes common in a population and when it first evolved takes many generations. This gene was prevalent in the Caucasus region at the time and spread westward into Europe around 20,000 years ago and became common around 10,000 years ago. For example, according to a recent study, another Neanderthal haplotype encompassing the OCA2 gene, found at high frequency in East Asians and Europeans, suggests that Neanderthal DNA played a major role in the depigmentation of early Homo sapiens in Eurasia. If Neanderthals had only dark pigmentation, why would modern humans have inherited light skin-related alleles from them? The reality is that Neanderthals had a range of pigmentation, just as modern Europeans do today, and had light skin adapted for northern climates. Indeed, contrary to popular media portrayal, Neanderthals exhibited variation in genes related to hair, skin, and eye pigmentation. Furthermore, some of that variation has been passed down to modern human populations, with different variants being more or less common in different populations. Interestingly, more of the introgressed variants are associated with lighter pigmentation than darker pigmentation. Lighter pigmentation makes sense for them, just as it does for modern humans. Surprisingly, evidence suggests that up to 16 different genes may be responsible for human eye color, but the main two genes associated with eye color variation are OCA2 and HERK2, both of which are located on chromosome 15. Specifically, a Neanderthal-introgressed allele associated with blue iris pigmentation and blonde and red hair color was under selection in modern human populations. Today, we know of over 100 variants linked to pigmentation variation in living humans. Fewer than 10 of these are known for Neanderthals, and this limited current knowledge may not reflect the full picture of Neanderthals. Nonetheless, two Neanderthal-introduced haplotypes involved in pigmentation are now very common in European populations, indicating a history of natural selection. Accepting that Neanderthals had blue eyes, red or blonde hair, and light skin challenges the notion that these traits emerged only after modern humans arrived in Europe. It suggests that some aspects of European identity are rooted in a deeper, indigenous ancestry going back hundreds of thousands of years, rather than being purely a product of later migration. One of these haplotypes includes the gene OCA2, which is known to have several variants in living people that affect skin and eye pigmentation. It is most commonly cited as a genetic link to blue versus brown eyes. This Neanderthal haplotype, which spans OCA2, is an excellent example of how difficult it can be to determine the functional significance of introgressed haplotypes. This haplotype contains no coding variants, so if there are functional differences between this haplotype and others, they must be due to gene regulation rather than genetic structure. The Neanderthal haplotype contains dozens of gene variants, but only one variant was identified in previous pigmentation studies. This variant has a statistically significant but small effect on eye and hair color in European ancestry samples. But because it does not strongly predict eye or skin pigmentation, it is unclear whether another linked variant is responsible for the association with pigmentation. Thus, the findings support the hypothesis of recurrent positive selection acting on multiple variants of OCA2, some of which evolved in modern humans and others inherited through hybridization with Neanderthals. Genome-wide studies and gene variant analyses have been critical in determining which Neanderthal gene variants are still present in modern human populations. For example, gene variants associated with Neanderthal-introgression have been linked to skin pigmentation traits, allowing us to better understand how these ancient genes influence the appearance of modern Europeans. In fact, the misconception that Neanderthals had exclusively dark or brown pigmentation is contradicted by multiple genetic analyses. The MC1R gene, which regulates pigmentation in hair and skin, has Neanderthal variants that lead to red and blonde hair in modern humans. Research on Neanderthal DNA has identified alleles associated with red hair in some specimens, suggesting that at least some Neanderthals had lighter hair. Neanderthal DNA studies have revealed other variants in genes associated with skin pigmentation that may have been passed down to modern Europeans. MC1R is an important gene that plays a role in melanin production. Some Neanderthal MC1R gene variants appear to have influenced differences in skin tone among modern humans, favoring lighter skin. However, the precise impact is unknown because modern European skin color is also influenced by natural selection and the interactions of multiple genetic factors over time. Indeed, variants associated with hair color in genes such as MC1R and TYRP1 suggest Neanderthal admixture. Alleles responsible for red hair and lighter hair have been linked to Neanderthal gene flow. The presence of these alleles in some modern human populations suggests that these ancient interactions provided the genetic basis for lighter and more diverse hair color in Europe, as well as an increased likelihood of body hair. According to yet another study, the Neanderthal-derived variant of BNC2 gene on chromosome 9 is strongly linked to lighter skin pigmentation, freckling, and reduced tanning ability in Europeans. Approximately 70% of Europeans possess the Neanderthal variant of the BNC2 gene. This gene is believed to modulate the expression of other pigmentation-related genes, including TYR on chromosome 11, which is crucial for melanin synthesis. The evidence is clear. Genetic research has shown that they carried alleles for blue eyes, red and blonde hair, and lighter skin, all of which were passed on to modern human populations. The persistence of myths about Neanderthal pigmentation is not based on science, but rather on a broader attempt to control historical narratives and reinforce specific models of human evolution. But why the misleading information about Neanderthal pigmentation studies? The British Museum is essentially a repository of artifacts stolen by the British Empire from around the world, including Africa. The British Natural History Museum and affiliated institutions have at times discredited scientists advocating for theories such as interbreeding by framing their views as scientifically flawed or influenced by personal or cultural biases. In some cases, they went as far as suggesting that proponents of Neanderthal modern human interbreeding were perpetuating outdated ideas. The British Museum and other institutions have a vested interest in promoting the replacement hypothesis as a dominant narrative. By emphasizing that all modern humans are nearly 100% non-Eurasian in origin, this institution distanced themselves from any claims that Europe played a significant role in human evolution. Scientific research is not immune to politics, and the portrayal of Neanderthals is no exception. Many researchers, particularly those affiliated with institutions promoting the replacement hypothesis, have downplayed or dismissed evidence that supports Neanderthal contributions to European traits. When studies have shown that Neanderthals had genetic markers for lighter pigmentation, they are often met with skepticism or ignored in favor of studies that reinforce darker pigmented Neanderthal depictions. Museum reconstructions of Neanderthals often depict them with dark skin and hair, even when genetic evidence suggests otherwise. The idea that Neanderthals were just another archaic human species with no lasting impact on modern humans aligns with the political and social goals of certain institutions that wish to downplay the role of Europe in early human history. For example, the use of the term Cro-Magnon has been insinuated to have biases, so the word was changed. The term Cro-Magnon refers to a population of Upper Paleolithic humans from Europe, particularly associated with sites in France, Italy and Spain, dating from about 40,000 to 10,000 years ago. This term has clear geographic and temporal significance, distinguishing these populations from later Mesolithic and Neolithic humans, as well as from contemporary early modern humans in Africa and Asia. The term is deeply ingrained in the history of anthropology and serves as a recognizable reference point for scholars, educators, and the public. The term Cro-Magnon remains a valuable scientific term despite ongoing debates about its usage in paleoanthropology. While some researchers advocate for abandoning the term in favor of early European modern humans or simply Homo sapiens, Cro-Magnon still holds significant scientific, historical, and taxonomic value for several reasons. If we delete the term Cro-Magnon, then why not also change the name of Neanderthals? One of the strongest reasons to retain Cro-Magnon is that it describes a specific population of early Homo sapiens with unique anatomical features. Unlike modern humans, Cro-Magnons had a robust skeletal structure with pronounced musculature, a high, rounded cranium with a prominent forehead, large brain capacity, a short, wide face with reduced brow ridges compared to Neanderthals, and strong limb proportions adapted to Ice Age climates. These traits set them apart not only from Neanderthals, but also from other early modern humans in Africa and Asia, justifying their continued recognition. Furthermore, similar terms like Neanderthal remain in use, despite genetic evidence showing significant interbreeding with modern humans. If Neanderthal is retained to describe a distinctive population, Cro-Magnon should be as well. While Cro-Magnons are genetically part of Homo sapiens, studies of ancient DNA reveal that they possessed unique genetic traits compared to modern Europeans. Their higher genetic diversity and certain extinct lineages indicate that they were not simply identical to present-day Europeans, but represented a specific phase in the evolution of modern human populations. Opponents of the term argue that all early modern humans should simply be classified as Homo sapiens. Additionally, comparisons between Cro-Magnons, Neanderthals, and other ancient human populations provide insights into adaptation, migration, and interbreeding, reinforcing the utility of keeping the term as a distinct identifier. The term Cro-Magnon remains a valuable scientific concept because it describes a specific, well-defined group of early European humans with distinct anatomical, cultural, and genetic traits. While all Cro-Magnons were Homo sapiens, not all early Homo sapiens were Cro-Magnons. The name helps distinguish these Upper Paleolithic Europeans from both their ancestors and later European populations. Natural History Museum researchers, particularly those working on the comparative anatomy of Neanderthals and modern humans, highlighted differences rather than overlaps between the two groups. Neanderthals were often depicted as a separate, archaic species with limited evolutionary connection to modern humans. This narrative focused on features such as robust skeletal morphology, brain case shape, and differences in the vocal apparatus, arguing these differences supported complete replacement. Natural History Museum researchers often stressed modern human behavioral and technological superiority, arguing that Neanderthals lacked the cognitive and cultural capacities to integrate into modern human populations. By prioritizing the replacement hypothesis, the Natural History Museum contributed to the widespread dismissal of the assimilation theory for decades. This resistance delayed the broader acceptance of a more nuanced view of human evolution, which recognizes both assimilation and replacement processes as shaping modern human ancestry. By the 1950s, anthropologists were widely aware that Neanderthals buried their dead and made sophisticated stone tools. Nevertheless, tools associated with Neanderthals, such as Mousterian technologies, were deemed inferior to modern humans' innovations like blade-based tools and symbolic artifacts. This framing reinforced the idea that Neanderthals were relics of a bygone evolutionary path, incapable of competing or contributing to modern human lineages, and perpetuated the outdated view of Neanderthals as primitive, brutish, and less capable. France, particularly paleontologist Marcelin Boule, had a significant role in paleoanthropology. Boule, while critical of the brutish Neanderthal stereotype, still depicted them as distinct from modern humans. British scientific institutions, including the Royal Society and the British Museum, often had a dismissive attitude toward French research, preferring Anglo-centric or imperial-aligned perspectives. However, according to French anthropologist Ludovic Slimak, "We are the puppet masters of these creatures from the past, which we have pieced together to create a sort of Frankenstein creature. Indeed, we have transformed them into lifeless dolls designed in our own image." In fact, the British and American view of Neanderthals as inferior was strongly influenced by geopolitical and nationalistic biases. Since Neanderthals lived primarily in mainland Europe, particularly in France, Germany, and Spain, British and American researchers were predisposed to view them as a dead-end species rather than ancestors of modern humans. French and other European scientists who argued that Neanderthals were intelligent and capable were dismissed as being biased, with their claims seen as an attempt to promote their own nation's historical significance in human evolution. This narrative allowed British scientists to maintain dominance in paleoanthropology while sidelining European researchers who promoted alternative theories, such as local evolution in Europe. The dismissal of Neanderthals as an evolutionary failure also reinforced Anglo-American scientific authority, while the promotion of the replacement hypothesis aligned with broader Cold War and post-colonial objectives beginning in the 1960s right up until today. And with that tantalizing statement, we leave you to contemplate the mysteries of our shared human history. Until next time, remain curious and stay questioning. Please subscribe, share, and check out our channel's other videos. Thank you and take care.